In this video, we are going to begin a unit on the pricing of merchandise. The price that a business marks up their goods and sells them to consumers, such as us. So, pricing is really critical to a business because they need to know how much to charge for the merchandise they're selling based on how much they paid for that merchandise in order to be profitable enough to pay their expenses. And so we're going to take a look at the mathematics of pricing merchandise using Excel and all the different calculations that are involved with that. So some of the resources that you have to work with in this lesson, we'll begin with Quizlet that we have, and that's where you'll want to start this little adventure. And the Quizlet that we are using, so the Quizlet contains just 9 words, vocabulary terms, and so you'll want to look this up within your class, called Pricing Merchandise. And so it would be good to go through this a couple times before we get started with our Excel to become familiar with the vocabulary that we are going to be looking at here. So some of the terms: selling price, this is how much you pay for goods when you go shopping. Markup is the amount of markup that the retailer or the store has placed on that merchandise based on how much they paid for it. Gross profit, operating expenses, and then I've got a couple little quiz questions for you here. So take a few minutes to go through those and become familiar, and then of course at least look at those each day when we come into class. You can learn those. So at this point, go ahead and pause the video, bring up that Quizlet, give it some practice time, and then come on back and we will continue and bring up our Excel document. Next step, navigate over to Student Drive B for your class and look for the folder Pricing Merchandise. And within Pricing Merchandise, look for Pricing Merchandise Template 1. Go ahead and open that up and save that to your Dropbox. And so take a couple minutes to do that. If for some reason this one gets lost, I know sometimes people move these rather than copy them. I went ahead and put some backup copies in here, so if that happens, this is all exactly the same document. They're just copies of that. So just in case it's not looking like what I'm showing you here, you can go into the backup copies and grab that. Open that up, get it saved, and then once you do that, you should have something that looks like this. And so at this point, I would recommend go ahead and pause, bring that up, get it saved, and then we'll get back to it. So I think for this first lesson, we will go ahead and just focus on the Excel skills, formatting skills that we need just to clean this up. You can see we just have a lot of raw data in here that we've provided for you. And so we'll go ahead and do some adjustments just to make this thing look a little nicer. So step 1, you can see here, you should be on this particular tab, Basic Equations. And so we're just going to do a little practice with some of the basic equations of pricing merchandise and selling items. And I'd say first thing you do is put your name right there. And the next order of business is to come into column A, and we've got just our line numbers here. And so I think it'd be nice if we just go ahead and center all of our headings. And then back to column A. And the other thing we can do with our column headings, always nice to put that border underneath these. So I'm just going to drop in here and put a single bottom border. And then I'm going to center my line item numbers. If at any time I'm going too fast, just pause it or replay it. Most of this is review. And then I'm going to actually finish filling these in by using the fill handle. So I select, grab that fill handle, drag it down. 14 lines. And then the line information, I always like to make these a smaller font. I think everything's at size 14 right now. So I'm going to drop this down to like 10. Just so it's not quite as cluttered. It's just a reference point for us to know which particular line item we're working on. And then the next thing I would do here is to go ahead and resize these columns because clearly they're bleeding over. This one here especially is not fitting in there, but I'm going to go ahead and make them all the same size. So I'm going to select columns B through D, and I'm on the Home tab on the main menu. Select Format, column width, and I'm going to choose a column width of 20. If you want to experiment with something else, that'll be fine. These are a little large, but might make it a little easier for you to see. And if you want, you could do more. Let's see how bold it looks. That looks pretty good. So there's our column headings. We've got a border underneath them, line items, centered and made a little bit smaller, size 10 on the font. Cost. Now we're dealing with cost here, and so this is dollars. So we need to format this as dollars. You'll notice that some of these only have one decimal place. So we're going to select all the values. And the shortcut is the $, which will put us into an accounting format, which is fine. And selling price is going to be the same thing. And the markup amount, in this case, is also dollars. And so that's basic equations. Let's move over to markup on cost and then do the same formatting options that we just did. We want to put those in the center. Border. I'm going to go a little faster here because we're just repeating. And if you want, you can just go ahead and work ahead. You need our line items in there. Put them in the center. Let's see. I'm going to set my column width to 20 again. Columns B through E this time. And once again, we have cost. That's going to be dollars. Now, if you want, you can experiment with a different format. If you want something just a currency format, it puts the $sign right next to the value. You can do it that way if you like. The markup amount is also going to be formatted as dollars. And the selling price, dollars. Currency. There we go. Now the markup rate is different. You will recall that anytime we use the term rate, generally we are talking about a percentage. So 0.15, what percentage is 0.15? Hopefully you said 15%. Remember, it's going to move that decimal point 2 places to the right and include the percent sign. So what we could do is just highlight everything in that column and go ahead and make that a percentage. And we want to have 1 decimal place. Let me zoom out and see how that's looking now. And that one's looking pretty good. Ready to go to work on. And we'll go to work on these in the next video as far as filling in these blanks, doing the math calculations. Let's go ahead and finish up by formatting our third worksheet, markup on selling price, and go ahead and make the same changes to this worksheet. Put our titles in the center, bottom border, get our lines, line items listed. You know, I think I forgot to resize those on that last worksheet. I think I wanted those size 10. And in the center. There we go. Column width. Using size 20. Oh, I think I made it bold too. Go ahead and do that too. Now, if you want, you can go ahead and add some color to this. Any of those skills that you have learned, you are welcome to do that. Markup amount is going to be dollars again. So our first three money columns are dollars, and then we have this markup rate. And once again, let me give you another question. How about this one? 0.10. What percent is 0.10? Yes, 10%. So we'll make that whole column percent format with one decimal place. And then make sure you save that. And I'm going to name mine Teacher 2, so I have a different version of it. And there you go. With that done, we are ready to move on and start doing some math calculations. So I will see you in the next video.